Welcome to Bearing Lifers, the podcast that takes you deep into the world of bearings. I'm your host, Ben Walls, third generation bearing enthusiast. Whether you're seasoned, pro, or just spinning into the industry, Bearing Lifers has something for everybody. So buckle up as we embark on our first episode. All right, before we go on any further, let me kind of explain to you guys what a bearing lifer is. A bearing lifer is somebody that has dedicated a significant portion of their life and their career to the bearing industry. These individuals have extensive experience, knowledge, and a deep passion for the world of bearings. Ever since I got into bearings, I've heard old timers, in and out of the bearing industry. If they've worked in it, they've ended up coming back, and it's just something that kind of sucks you in, and you just get a deep connection to it because of the people within the community that I'll just kind of look out for everybody. So it's really nice. Well, now that everybody's on the same raceway, let's get into the interview.
Today, we have a special guest who's been navigating the intricate world of bearings. Without further ado, let me introduce our expert guest, Dean Payne. Dean, welcome to Bearing Lifers.
Well, let me stop you right there. I don't know if I'm an expert, but I appreciate it.
How long have you been with BDS, man?
I've been with BDS coming up on 20 years. It's been a long, long time.
Yeah, I think we started at the same time. We started the same year anyway.
Yeah.
So what are you doing over at BDS now? This is for our guest, obviously, Dean. I mean, I know all these things.
I'm Dean Payne. I'm the sales manager at Bearing and Drive Systems. I started in the back when I was in college and worked my way up into sales, and I've, I guess, in a weird way, become a bearing lifer.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we dive into the nuts and bolts of the bearing world here, Dean, let's start off with like your story in the back and how you went from, running parts to, shipping and receiving and pulling orders to actually becoming the sales manager over at BDS.
Yeah, I think that the summer I started here, like I said, I was in college, but I think it was the warmest summer on record. And our warehouses at BDS are not climate controlled, so they get pretty warm. And I learned the hard way what hard work is all about. And we're in a boom. We're shipping a lot of products out to distributors all over the country. And I just found it interesting between, the challenges of bearing nomenclature and all the different customers and the types of end users we'd ship into. I just, in a weird way, almost became fascinated with it and really wanted to learn more about it. And that kind of like jump-started my growth with the company. It was taking a keen interest to it.
Sure. Yeah. What'd you go to college for? Are you using that degree like every day?
No. I wanted to be an attorney, but I never truly finished up. And I don't know what would have been worse, to be honest, being a bearing guy or attorney.
All right, man. So now looking at our industry today from when you started, kind of landscape do you see evolving over the 20 years of your career?
Yeah, I remember the days when I moved up into sales about 12 years ago now, that it was phone call after phone call after phone call. And nowadays it's nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to, it's all emails. And that's a challenge for somebody that likes to build those relationships on the phone, but it's evolving, and you have to learn how to do it in different methods of communication. I think that's the biggest thing, is the way technology has influenced purchasing decisions and in everything from communication to even bearing technology like sensors and things like that, allowing people to, pull bearings out of service before they fail, things like that. It's truly remarkable how far it's come.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, over 20-year career, you have to have a memorable bearing story you could share with us. Maybe a crazy application, something that blew up, something that you were involved in that you just thought was cool.
Well, I try and block all those stories out, to be honest, but my favorites are always the 2-3 in the morning. We have a line down. We need to get a bearing that you guys have. They know we have it before I even know we have it. Somehow we need to get out of your facility, whether it's Motion, Applied, or one of the small guys. We'll have a truck there to deliver it to our customer, get them up and running. And no matter what you do, you're never quick enough, but it's really rewarding to be able for people to rely on you to help with those types of things. And when it works, it feels great. And sometimes, everything doesn't go as planned, and that sucks. But, letting your customers know or having them know that you're going 100% trying to help them is really an awesome feeling.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I'm having you on as our first guest as a bearing lifer. But over 20 years, I mean, this terminology that I've heard when I first started, this bearing lifer term, I'm sure you've heard it in the past from maybe an old timer or somebody else in the industry. Are there any bearing lifers that kind of, guided you, mentored you, or people of note that you're like, this guy is really the bearing expert. He's like a pinnacle kind of guy.
I think being in sales so long, it would be an injustice to name any one. I think the group as a whole, it's truly amazing what you learn. When I first went into sales, I did export sales. So I really didn't know how to sell anything. I didn't really know all the bearings. Obviously, you never really know all the bearings. And I also didn't know how to communicate with people that spoke different languages. So that's where I started, and everything has kind of been easier from there. But just the diversity of the customers and the different regions they're in and the types of accounts they call on. I mean, I think they've all had their part in making me become a bearing lifer, just because no day was the same as the day before, and you never knew what challenges you're gonna face that coming day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. It is a fantastic community. I mean, after, we lost Steve, we kind of got thrust into that. Hey, you guys are going to be the face of these companies. You got to start going to shows. You got to start meeting these people. And so putting some of these names to faces, I think over the last few years has been pretty fantastic. But it's also unbelievable, like the community you're talking about. These guys accepted us in. I mean, it's built our relationships, I think, a little stronger, being able to communicate with these guys in a, face-to-face kind of situation with the PTDA, the BSA, the ABMA. And yeah, I mean, what a weird competitor vendor relationship where everybody kind of just wants to get along and like move the entire industry forward.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all doing the same things. We're trying to help make things happen. And if there's can be a collective between the people that make things happen in the bearing world, that's good for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dean, one more question for you. Looking ahead with your career, bearing industry, or with BDS, what kind of new developments should we be looking out for in the bearing industry or otherwise? What do you see coming?
Just technology. Technology is king. It's going to take over a lot more different avenues that nobody really expected. And you just got to stay on point and keep on your toes and be willing to evolve. And even with the workforce, if you're not evolving with what workers want, you're not attracting that young talent. So it's just a constant evolution, same as any industry. But bearings is definitely moving the world forward.
Absolutely, man. Reducing friction one bearing at a time, right? All right, Dean. Well, thanks again for coming on to our first ever
Yep.
Bearing
Thanks for
Lifer
having me. I
podcast.
appreciate
Absolutely,
it.
man.
As we wrap up this episode of Bearing Lifers, keep a lookout for our next episode. We'll continue to bring you the stories and experiences that make our industry spin. And if you or someone you know is a bearing lifer and would like to be on the show, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Until next time, keep those bearings spinning.